This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's going around the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get involved.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
For the final time in 2019, we say welcome to the international region of the Majors Series. 13 rounds of racing has led us to the conclusion of one of the most diverse leagues in iRacing. This year, these drivers have their skills tested on ovals, dirt tracks, and of course road courses across every type of car imaginable. But tonight, we end the season in the Williams-Toyota FW31 at the Interlagos circuit. A throwback to the 2009 Brazilian Grand Prix. Tonight's action, all live on the iRacing Esports Network and presented by SimSpeed TV. My name's Ryan Jones, and alongside me tonight, I've got Jay Kennedy, who's also directing this race for us. And we've got potentially a 24-car field tonight, something we haven't seen in F1 since 2012. Amongst this field, a variety of championship standings wrapping up, some already concluded and some still to be decided. Let's bring Jay into the conversation. Let's take a look firstly at Pro Driver standings.
Yeah, hello everyone. Cameron Dance, as we remember at Bathurst, did wrap up the championship over Dane Burns, but the minor positions all very, very close. We've got six different drivers that could potentially take those podium spots tonight. So it's going to be an interesting conclusion to the season within that midfield. Although the leaders in all three of our divisions are all settled, the rest of the field in all of our divisions are really, really tight. There's a mathematical chance that something could happen in Sportsman as well, but between Dane Burns, John King, Shane Bowen, Chris Purnell, Dean Mole, Daniel Stevens and Michael Skurlock in this race, it's going to be a very, very cool fight to watch to see who will come out on top and who will take second and third in this championship.
Yeah, going to be a great fight, that one. Let's take a look then at that Sportsman standings, because as you mentioned, Dave Douglas, he leads by 404 points. Mathematically, Riley Curtis can take it away from him. But for that to happen, I think we decided that Curtis would have to finish in the top 4. Douglas would have to cop a DNF for tonight's race. And the consistency that Dave has, not incredibly likely, but we know anything can happen in sim racing, so don't count that one out. But yeah, we expect Douglas has got that wrapped up. Behind him, again, a close fight between Curtis, Hunter and McCarthy for second place. Big gap there back to 5th place, and then pretty close from there on back as well.
Yeah, the interesting thing, we talked about it before we come live, is top 4 all in the Sportsman's division, all from the same team. So they've done a really good job throughout this championship. Very, very consistent, all 4 of their drivers. Ryan DeCartier McCarthy's had a really strong second half of the season. Matt Hunter had a really strong start. So those two guys will be basically going for bragging rights. They can steal second away from Riley Curtis if they have a great result in this race. So fingers crossed for either of those guys that they can steal it away. But Riley Curtis, we know how much of a fighter he is in these races, so he can try and steal the championship. Unlikely to steal it from his teammate in Dave Douglas, but there is that mathematical chance that it could happen.
There is. In Legends, there is absolutely no way possible, no matter which way you twist and turn and play with the points. John King's got this one wrapped up by a country mile, 1,326 points back to Scott Kukas in second. So that one's done and dusted for the win. and again, a close battle for second place. And Kukas and Gavin Barber were fighting for that one. And then for 4th place and 5th place is in Phil Otto and Brad Fenley. And then it's pretty much settled for 6th, 7th, and 8th. But still some possible position changes going to be happening in Legends.
Yeah, John King is the legend of this series himself. That's back-to-back Legends wins, and last year he finished top 3 in the overall championship as well. So he's definitely been one of the best in this series overall. Last season did a great job. He hasn't had the best second half of this season, but it's been enough to maintain that gap to his rivals. And Scott Kukas and Gavin Barber, they will fight it out for that 2nd and 3rd spot. Mathematical chance for Phil Otto to take third position away from Gavin Barber, but Scott Kukas, the worst he can finish is 3rd, which is always a fantastic result.
Yeah, well, I have actually just gone ahead and looked at the entry list for tonight's race, and what I have noticed is that Kukas, Barber, Phil Otto, none of those drivers actually registered for tonight's race with a qualifying time. Brad Fenley is not registered either. Wayne Taylor in 6th place, though. He is in tonight's race, and so it's the only gain or loss we're going to see in those standings tonight. You'd expect Taylor with a semi-decent result. Well, he's going to maintain a spot. He'd need to win this race to be able to jump Friendly, and on closer inspection, even that gap will be too much for him. Let's go have a look at the pro team standings. Leading is Kinetic Swift Racing, Illusion, 994 back.
Yeah, so this is up for grabs. This could change in this race tonight. So we could see a change of position between the 1st and 2nd place teams. But have a look at how close it is between 3rd and 4th. There is only 12 points separating 3rd and 4th place teams. SimSpeed Esports, which has pretty much just been Cam Dance all season long. He's had a couple of helpers along the way, but tonight he's out there flying solo again. He would need a miracle to take 3rd position away from Avatar Auto Racing, who's got 3 or 4 drivers out there tonight. So going to be a very, very tough ask, but we've seen bizarre things in this championship. So anything could happen. There is also the possibility for Middle Finger Racing to take that 3rd position away as well with a good result for the MF Racing 2 team.
Should be a good battle, that one. Sportsman teams. We mentioned top 4 spots in the Sportsman drivers was occupied by RCD Sim Sports drivers. And, well, that's the result because they lead by 850 points in the teams to MFR Racing 1. Still a possibility of that changing around tonight, but it's not too likely. And look at the gap back to 3rd. 3,200 points. 5,000 back to Dog Bear. 6,000 to Kinetic. And another couple thousand back to Misfit, back to MFR, and then back to Rick Hughley Motorsport. So only potential change is at the front in that one, but at 850 points, not likely. RCD Sim Sports, I think you'll find that at the end of tonight's race will be your Sportsman team champions.
Yeah, mathematical chance that could change, but probably will stay as it is. But I must say, now that we've got the cars out on track after they've finished their driver's briefing, I miss this sound. These are the best sounding Formula 1 cars that we've had of the era. That era back in the late 2000s was fantastic. These cars just sound amazing, and we're going to have some great vision and audio tonight from tonight's race, and throwback, as you said, to the 2009 Brazilian Grand Prix. And 24 cars. Looks like we've got 22 out on track at the moment, so we might not get to that 24, but 22 is a throwback to that 2009 season.
It is, and in terms of tonight's race, we've got 71 laps coming up for us. By my calculations, should take us about 80 minutes, although my math skills are not that great. In terms of the strategy, likely going to see a 2-stop race, although what we have heard is that a 1-stop is possible, a 3-stop is possible, but what you might find is that with a 3-stop, you're not going to gain back that time unless you are blazingly quick on your fresh tyres, and with a 1-stop, you're going to wear out those tyres a bit too much and lose a lot by the end of the race. So for most of these drivers, expect 2 ventures down into pit lane, all going well for them today. And track temp is scorching out there as well. 48 degrees track temp, which means these drivers can be really struggling for traction. The car that already is extremely high downforce, high horsepower, but very prone to losing it in the high-speed corners with a snap oversteer or something similar to that.
The only thing I'm thinking is with this hotter conditions, a lot hotter than a lot of drivers would have been expecting, is that we could now see that 3-stop strategy open up. It is possible, 4 stints. Of course, the big difference we need to think about too from this era to now is these cars take fuel. So about 4 seconds for a pit stop for fuel and tyres. So drivers do have to take that fuel in the stop. You want to try and run the least amount of fuel as possible. I think 32 kilos in the 4 seconds from memory. I can't remember the numbers now. Yeah, 32. That was a good guess. Off only read that note for a very, very quick moment. And 120 kilos of fuel in the tank, but you need around about 150 kilos of fuel. So you will have to stop for at least 30 kilos of fuel, which means you're going to take 32 just because of the time it takes. And that's around about a 4-second stop. Now, of course, this car back in the day did have KERS, but iRacing removed the KERS when they released the McLaren F1, and no one really knows if KERS is still working at the moment. But doesn't mean that the car is not isn't fun at all. This is a fantastic car, and I must say it's been a long time since I've been out on track in this car, and I'm trying to think back. I think in the history of VX Online / SimSpeed, we've only broadcast this car on track once before, so this is going to be a fun time for us here to have this back out on track. It's a good little throwback to the past of iRacing as well.
It certainly is, and that KERS system, I know what it stands for. Do you know what it stands for, Jay?
Kinetic energy something.
Recovery system.
Recovery. I was going to say something else, but I'm not sure what I was going to say. But anyway.
For those of you that are unaware of what that KERS is, it is, of course, that kinetic energy recovery system, which basically means the car recovers energy over the course of its movements around the track, and allows you to, well, in theory would allow you to apply an extra burst of power to your car in some opportune moments around the track. Of course, unfortunately, not quite going to be available for these drivers out there unless it has been implemented automatically, which, as you mentioned, we have no idea whether it has been. So there's a little technical or fact for you for someone that didn't know. I'm sure maybe one person has learned something today.
I definitely have by reading those notes. I must say we're going to get, as we said, have some really cool shots. I love this angle here, looking over the driver's shoulder, and that dash. It seems so different to what we see on modern cars now, isn't it? It's a real old school look, and the shift lights at the top above it, and a digital display instead of like an LED screen, and different modes and things like that. The old dials were always really cool to see in the Formula 1 cars back from this era, so they were really, really nice looking cars back in this era too.
Yeah, they certainly are, and they sound great, they look great, and will we see them next year though? Because the 2020 season schedule for the Majors Series will be announced tomorrow in the Americas broadcast of this race. So if you want to get the first opportunity to look at that, make sure you tune into that broadcast tomorrow on the iRacing Esports Network. And I can tell you, it's a pretty good schedule, if I do say so myself. Not that I've seen it, but you know, it's a pretty good schedule, isn't it, Jay?
Right. We have been given a little bit of info, but not the full thing. But from what we've heard and what we've seen so far, looking forward to 2020 already. It's going to be fantastic. We know just from what we've had in previous seasons that, or what to expect. We know that we're more than likely going to see another Indy 500, because why wouldn't we? It's the best race of the year. We're more than likely to see another Daytona 500, because every single race that we've had of that has been epic. Other than that, though, who knows? But we know that we're going to probably be somewhere around the Daytona area for the first race. Whether it is the Daytona 500 or something else, we don't really know. But looking forward to it. So make sure you do check out the Americas broadcast Sunday night if you're in the States. Monday lunchtime-ish for in Australia and New Zealand. Check your local guides on YouTube. It does adjust the time for you to your time zone on YouTube to help you out.
Well, let's go through the grid for tonight's race. Standing start, of course, for these drivers who've got just a few moments to do this. Scott Newton He's put it on pole position, and he will have Chris out alongside him on the front row of the grid. Dean Mole for Kinetic Swift Racing and Illusion Motorsports #1 driver Chris Purnell starts 4, so that battle will regime for the second row of the grid. Cameron Dance, Michael Skillock are 5th and 6th, and row 4 is Dwayne Burns and Shane Bowen.
Yeah, then we go to row 5 with Meko Dintenak and Jake Fox on that row, with Rob Powers and Riley Curtis next. Trevor Mack and Dave Douglas on row 7 with John King and Sean O'Hara, row number 8.
17th and 18th going to be Daniel Stevens and Matthew Clowett. Ryan Ducati, McCarthy, and Wayne Taylor round out the top 20. Rounding out the field will be Wayne Taylor, Jonathan Bain, Bradley Matheson, and Matt Hunter. That's 23 cars ready to go for today's race. 71 laps ahead of us. Going to be a great race in terms of strategy, in terms of racing, and a great race to watch and listen to. The revs are rising, the drivers are away, and it's a great start from second place Chris Own. He may be able to clear Scott Newton into turn 1. A big wiggle with the car as he struggles to get that thing slowed down and turned in. The rest of the field filtering through the first 2 corners of chicane. They've all got through there cleanly. And now down towards turn 4 we go. And look at this draft in Newton. He's going to come right back down, but he thinks better of it and sits back in behind him. And behind Newton is Dean Mole, Chris Purnell, and Cameron Dance is spinning, coming out of turn number 4 and stationary on the apex of turn 5. Big mistake for Dance. He's going to be going backwards, your International Pro Champion.
Disappointing start for Dance. He did say that he wouldn't mind doing a last to first challenge. Our first mode of simulation replay, we didn't want to get one of these up this early. And a little bit of a breakaway too happening between the first 4 drivers. Of course, Cameron Dance was the 5th car, so that's just caused that rest of that pack to bobble a little bit and drop back. But Dance, just easy spin to do on cold tyres, and just not quite as much grip as he was hoping for. Another spinner.
Oh, yeah, another one. Dean Mole has gone around from 3rd place in this race. The 2 of the top 5 starters have gone to the back of the grid, and that leaves Scott Newton out front. Going around the outside of Chris out, side by side through turn 1. Newton's got the inside for 2. He goes back into the lead of the race. These 2 have stopped positions twice already in the opening lap and a half. And now Newton's going to go defensive, trying to break that toe. Dwayne Burns has spun in turn 1 as well as Alm tries to find a way by Newton. And this is a great battle up front as drivers are seemingly spinning left, right and centre behind them.
Yep, Newton's now looks like he's got a little bit of rhythm now that he's back into the lead of the race. And very, very easy cars to spin, but they do love to be driven at 99.9%. If you drive them at about 80% or 70%, you don't get the most out of the car, not only in the performance of the car, but the car doesn't behave in the way that you would expect it to. So you need to drive the car really hard to get it to perform in the way you would expect. So a couple of drivers are probably trying to tippy-toe their way around the first couple of laps, maybe getting a little caught out. Still some really good battles. The top 2 are broken away. Chris Purnell's all by himself now. But this battle here, this is 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th position. We've got Dintenak, Skurlock, Bowen, Fox and Trevor Mack all nose to tail, as it looks like Shane Bowen is going to get a move done here on Michael Skurlock.
He should get this done. He's got the inside for turn 1. He can go late enough on the brakes, but Skurlock pulling back ahead. By the time they get down towards turn 1, he had a distant draft off his teammate Dortanak, which has helped him there with these high downforce cars, punching a big hole in the air. The draft from the slipstream is as big as you'll ever see it, as again the lead is changing hands. Chris Alm remains in 2nd place for now. He almost had the move done with Scott Newton as they get very close there on the edge of the turn 6. These guys refuse to be separated, and what's helping Chris Alm is that slipstream. Turn 13 is the last corner where you have to lift off the throttle. Then you've got 2 more corners, 14 and 15, where they are flat out. You've got a long front straight with a couple of kinks in it. And then, of course, the run between 3 and 4 means you can close up a lot if you're within that, a second or so for the draft. Which means that Chris Alm is going to be in prime position by the time they get down to turn 1 here. Further back in the field, some more battles still happening, though. This is Jonathan Bain back in 20th, and 19th is Cameron Dance, who started from 5th place on the grid. So he's going to be disappointed with that, no doubt about that one. And he'll want to find some more pace and get himself back up there and finish off the season well, because you may have that championship wrapped up, but you never want to finish off your season with a poor result. You want to have that momentum going into the off season.
Exactly right. You want to make sure that you maintain your level throughout the season as well. Now, Chris Owen looks like he's happy now, a little bit more content, just sitting in behind the car of Scott Newton, and will now try and apply some pressure and maybe force Newton into a little mistake. Have a look at the different lines there. I love this circuit because there are so many different lines, so many different options that you can run through and towards, as Newton looking very, very smooth back down the hill. It's going to be an interesting fight. What these two have done as well is they've broken a fairly decent gap back to Chris Purnell. Purnell is 4.2 seconds back from Newton. Have a look at the gap there. That's huge. We're only 3.5 laps into this race, and he's already broken an absolute monster of a gap.
Just having a look at the lap times on these drivers. It was 6 tenths off last time by, and in terms of fastest lap of the race, Scott Newton's on a 13.7. Jake Fox is doing an excursion through the gravel. It looks like it's at the penultimate corner. Let's get a replay up from Modal Simulation. Coming through, one of the many right-handers, and then getting it back to the left. Too eager on the throttle. Yeah, snaps into a bit of a spin on the inside, and then just awkwardly spun up on that curb. No damage for him, though. He'll get back on track. He lost a bit of time, but look at the lead of the race. Almost touching and pushing each other through turn 3. Now to the inside for turn 5. Scott Newton, he's got the inside for turn number 6, and Chris Allen's going to find it tough. Maybe he can sweep back and get a crossover done, but not that time. It looks to me like this is going to be a fantastic battle right through this race, because at the moment, the first 5 laps have been absolutely cracking racing between these top 2 drivers, and they're not slowing each other's down, because 4.5 seconds now back for third place Purnell.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job last lap by Scott Newton, 13.6. Chris Owen, 13.6. Next fastest driver on track was the car of Chris Purnell, 14.5. Compare that to Cameron Dance making his way back through the field doing 16.5. So they're 3 seconds faster than Cameron Dance, who is the champion of this series. So absolutely phenomenal pace from these front 2. And to do it while they're battling is incredible. They've just come past the line again, a little bit slower that lap because they were fighting a lot more. See if they continue to fight over the next lap. 5 laps in and we're fairly clean too, which is great to see. Nobody's had to come into the pits and get their spare car. That is a first for this. Yeah, I have done it. But that is a first for this season in the major series. So well done, guys. Made it 5 laps without anyone needing to come in and get damage fixed, or to serve a penalty, or to serve a slowdown, or anything like that, which is a fantastic result and just shows the respect that the drivers actually have for each other out on track.
Well, they've been racing each other now for 14 rounds across the entire year, so a lot of experience up against each other and wheel-to-wheel combat, and that is very critical when you're racing people. You know who you're racing, you know how they race. Are they aggressive, are they conservative, do they leave a bit more room than they need to? Conversation that's been had on the real world Formula 1 lately with regard to Verstappen needing more room when he's being raced. It definitely helps and allows you to race harder with drivers without coming off worse for the spin or an incident.
Interesting little battle here going on between teammates. We said before we went live that these two are in a fight for the championship in the Sportsman division. It was unlikely that Dave Douglas would lose it, but right behind him is the man that needs to basically win the race, that being Riley Curtis. Now Riley does look fairly quick at the moment too, so we could see a little bit of battling going on between these two. They're fighting for a top 10 as well. So this will be an interesting fight over the next couple of laps, whether Riley Curtis can get this move done or not. But in the background you see Dean Mole and Rob Power just changing position.
Easy change position there between those drivers. And there's Rob Powers now in 12th place and Dean Mole ahead of him in 11th. Up front, the battle has eased out and the gap is out to 7/10 of a second. It's Shane Bowen up there in 6th place, all over the back of Trevor Mack, who's actually just got by Shane Bowen. So Mack's gone up into P5 on this lap. Michael Skurlock is just behind them too. That's a spin for one of the drivers sporting the default iRacing livery. It was Riley Curtis for RCD Sim Sports. Through turn 4, similar to Cameron Dance. Yes, it is, just spins, gets on the brakes, but not before he gets into that wall. Maybe a bit of front end damage for him, but it doesn't look too bad there. Here's the onboard perspective, and whack, straight into that wall. And it doesn't look like it damaged the car at all, actually.
That looks like he might have got away with that, just a slight little bump. Might have noticed a little bit of aero down the front straight or down the run through between turns 4 and 5, or 5 and 6 I should say. Cameron Dance is about to get another move done here. This is Rob Powers that he's about to come on by. And Dance will get himself up into position number 11 on his drive back through the field. 25 seconds back after that one spin. Incredible how much pace those guys have at the front. Last lap by, new fastest lap for Scott Newton, a 1:13.4. That's some great pace.
Side by side for P10, Dean Mole to the inside to the outside of Dave Douglas, sweeps around the outside through turn 4. Douglas struggling to get on the power there, got crowded down in the corner. Great move from Dean Mole to pick up 9th place in the race, further back 6th and 7th. Bowen, he got passed by Trevor Mack last time by, now he's under pressure from Michael Skurlock. And Shane Bowen want to stop this backwards trend because he came up from 8th place as a result of the spins earlier on, but now it seems that maybe these tyres not quite holding up so great as Skurlock. Don't expect the tyre wear to be too significant, not a huge drop off from what we've heard, but 15 to 21 laps or so, and we will expect those tyres to be significantly slower than the start of the stint. Skurlock's not quite close enough there in turn 1. Something to note as well is when you get big high downforce and aero-dependent cars such as these is the loss of air when you're tucked up behind someone else through the corners. Skurlock's not going to have to worry about that into turn number 4 though, because Willie, that was late on the brakes and Bowen, but a bit too late, runs wide and Skurlock does go through. The loss of downforce through the corners, something that's so often talked about in the real world with Formula 1 as well, is how much the cars lose speed and grip through the corners. About 40% reduction in grip from what I heard in the 2019 Formula 1 cars. So it's a big drop off, and it's something the shows will have to think about, and that's why we have stuff like the slipstream and DRS and KERS playing a big effect as you are watching Dave Douglas and Cameron Dance, who is charging his way back up through the field.
There's a little bit of contact there between the two drivers as well. So Dance probably getting a little bit impatient. He's been stuck behind the car of Dave Douglas this entire lap. Last lap by was 2 full seconds faster, so Cameron Dance is a lot quicker, but he just can't get that position done. He's just not quite fast enough in the right spots to get it done. Wouldn't be surprised to see a move into turn 4 on the next lap. He'd be looking to get a great exit here. Amazing that we've already completed 9 laps. Oh, that's a spin there for Dave Douglas. Around he goes. Keep it off the wall, Dave. Does it.
Oh, nice flick spin. Fantastic little flick spin from Douglas, just missing the wall with the rear end as he spun that car back around. He's going to go all the way in behind Wayne Taylor, who's circulating in 20th place. Riley Curtis has spun as well. We'll have a look at what's happened to Riley Curtis through turn 1. Similar story to his teammate Douglas, but he kept it on the asphalt. And let's get a nice flick spin pointed back the right way for him. Douglas and Curtis got the work cut out ahead of them. Daniel Stevens has been elevated up a spot thanks to that spin from Douglas, so he now sits in 8th place, right in behind Shane Bowen, who's got yet another driver behind him, pressurising him now.
Yep, so Skurlock, Bowen, Stevens, all nose to tail, 6th, 7th and 8th. Daniel Stevens has done a very, very good job in the latter half of this season as well. He's been very, very consistent. Now Shane Bowen also looking to make moves here. These have been 3 of our regulars throughout this championship as well. So these guys have raced each other a lot. Know that they can give each other a little bit of racing room, but not too much, because if any of them do give too much racing room, another one will just steal that spot away. Have a look at the run that Daniel Stevens has got.
It seems that outside line into turn 4 is proving a big advantage on these drivers because they're able to brake a lot later, it seems. Other than that, everyone that's gone to the inside is just being a bit timid, not wanting to wash out onto that car on the outside, because almost every move I've seen there so far today, that car on the outside has gone very deep on the brakes and held them off, as Steven just made an absolute butchery of those sequence of corners there. Let's get a replay for that. A little scary moment for there. And Bradley Matheson was one of the drivers that we saw there too, because he came around.
Yeah, so Matheson's actually had a mistake right here. No, it must be the next corner where he's made a little boo-boo. And he and Matt Hunter were battling for position, and Hunter sort of held that outside line, and Matheson just went shooting off into the nether region there. So Daniel Stevens' little mistake there did give a bit of a breathing room there to Shane Bowen. Just locked a brake after missing the braking point, but the pace that he's got, I wouldn't be surprised to see that gap come back down on the battle at the front of the field. It is still very, very stagnant around that 1.7, 1.8 second bracket. So they're both very, very consistent. Talking around pit stops, if they're looking at 2 stops, we're looking at around about lap 24-ish. Now, we said before that 15 laps to 22 laps tyre life is where you want to run it. You don't want to run it too many more than 22. If you're going to do a 2-stopper, you've got to run 24. If the hot temperatures out on track, which is now up to 51 degrees, if they continue to rise, drivers might be looking at 3 stops just purely on tyre conservation.
Yeah, exactly. And these high track temps. Who's that that's spun? That's an Illusion Motorsport car. That's Michael Skurlock, and I think he's just spun it around again. Oh, his shortcut of the corner. So he has spun from 6th place. Let's see what's going on for him. It could be too eager on the throttle. Through turn 12, into turn 13, and right on the exit, he'd almost got that car straightened out. It just launched sideways on him. And Jonathan Bain as well also had a spin at turn number 10. We'll see. A recurring theme up and down this field today that these drivers are really struggling with the high power of these cars for traction, and they're looping it pretty easily at the moment.
Oh, look at the track limits. Absolutely ignored. And Dean Mole goes, thank you, I'll take that. 2 positions there for Dean Mole just by holding the racing line. Gets past Daniel Stevens, gets past Shane Bowen, and Bowen now drops 2 behind Mole and Stevens. Now he's going to have to work hard to get that spot back. Also got an incident back in the field. Dave Douglas around again, and he is missing the rear wing. He has got massive damage to that car. We've also got our first pitter, that being, yeah, he's got steering damage, and Riley Curtis also in the lane. We need to find out what's happened here to Dave Douglas.
That car crabbing, he's got some steering damage, probably got some suspension damage, probably got some rear wing damage. Seeing as he hasn't exactly got a rear wing anymore. Into turn 1 all by himself. Similar story to what we saw earlier on. Yes, it is. Loses it. This time he can't keep the rear end off the wall and whacks that tyre bundle with that rear wing. Loses that in the process. He'll try and limp that car back around to pit lane. Or he's going to take a tow. Looks like he's going to take a tow actually, and he's going to have to get that spare car out, but that's him done. And where's Riley Curtis? So unfortunately, Riley Curtis is back in 22nd because he's the only man that challenged Douglas mathematically for the championship, sportsman. And if Curtis was up there in the top 5, he might have been in a spot to take it away if Douglas is going to cop a last place finish today.
Yeah, Douglas will probably come in and get the spare car and get back out there again, but Riley Curtis a long way back. He's the only car that has pitted as Jake Fox, Ryan DeCartier-McCarthy side by side. And finally, we see a move done on the inside. Jake Fox gets it done there of DeCartier-McCarthy. Now Matthew Clowett not far behind DeCartier-McCarthy. So we might see another move potentially happen here. But Jake Fox now up into 16th position. Field has settled a little at the moment. But when I say a little, I literally mean a little. It's still pretty messy and a little bit of fighting going on out there. Cameron Nance has got back into 10th position finally. So just see another car around. That's Matthew Clowett. He's hit the wall too. And fingers crossed for him, he doesn't have steering damage as well.
Got in with the front end of the car, so you would suspect it's quite likely twitching through that corner. Looks like he might have gotten away with it. Not the first guy I've seen nose in today and escape without heavy damage. Is the onboard shot from the nose cone of Matthew Clowett's car. And a similar story to what we've seen all day long. Out of turn 6, 7, and into that barrier. Didn't get it too hard, so I think he has got away with that one.
Yeah, fingers crossed for his sake he's got away with it. So, just seen Wayne Taylor has just got past Sean O'Hara. And O'Hara now try and close that gap back down. Taylor, though, is closing in very, very quickly on John King ahead. So, Wayne Taylor might be one to watch in the next lap or two in the 998. He's only 7/10 back from John King, but last lap by was a full second quicker. So Wayne Taylor on a charge coming back through the field. See if he can close up. Interesting too that Scott Newton is already into traffic, only 15 laps in. Amazing we're 15 laps in. How's that happened? If, those guys that are on 3 stops can pretty much start to come in now. Incredible.
Yeah, this race is absolutely flying by. It's turning into a race of attrition, isn't it, Jay? Because a lot of drivers are making mistakes out there, which isn't too surprising with the nature of these cars, but Scott Newton and Chris Allen, they're separated by 2.5 seconds. If either of those makes a mistake, or Scott Newton makes a mistake, he's going to be under all sorts of pressure by Allen. How's the gap to the rest of the field? 17 seconds. And a lot further back, the 16th place here, which is Jake Fox, but these top two are just absolutely flying out front.
Back on board Wayne Taylor, but yeah, you're right, the gap at the front's huge. Wayne Taylor, though, look at the run he's got here, the momentum. He just set his fastest lap of the race, last lap by. Not going to be able to get it done on John King on that move there on that corner. He's just lost all that momentum. He's going to have to do all of that hard work again.
There he is, and mistakes. I don't think he's going to struggle to get that gap back up, because I think at some point everyone is making a mistake. If it's not a spin, it's a little twitch with rear end into the corners or through the corners, losing some downforce. As one of the illusion cars, Mirko Dornak has found his way up into 4th place. He's up 5 spots. There's some big movers in this race. Dornak is up 5 spots from 9th on the grid. Trevor Mack is up 8 spots from 13th. He sits in 5th behind Dornak. And Daniel Stevens too, he's up 10 spots. So those guys have done fantastically well in this race. That's a spin for Shane Bowen, who we've seen going backwards through the course of this race after a good start. And he's going to be going even further back now, behind Cameron Dance into 11th place. Spins through turn 1 on the exit, trying to get that power down, trying to get the car back to the right-hand side of the track. And Skurlock almost cleaned up his rear end as he reversed that car around. And Skurlock, he spun too! A snap of oversteer through turn 3. And around he goes, loses the nose cone. Doesn't get the fortune we've seen with other drivers nosing into the wall, and it looked like there at the end he had some steering damage too. There's Trevor Mack, or Shane Bowen. It may have put him off onto a line he didn't want to be on. Too shallow through turn 3 as a result, and noses into the wall. That is a really unfortunate there for Skurlock.
Yeah, 100%. He was doing a really good job, so yeah, he'll be pretty upset with himself for that. But you never know in these sort of races too. Sometimes an incident like that can actually be a positive in a strange way, because it forces you to change your strategy and do something different from those guys you were battling with anyway. So Skurlock will bring it into the pits now. He'll now switch over to a 3-stop strategy more than likely, and may be beneficial for him in the long term of this race. So we'll see if it does pay off for him. But Skurlock is now just about to bring it into the lane, there's no doubt. One thing I love about this circuit is the commitment you need to bring it into pit lane. Of course, you're not going to see it here because of the damage here on Skurlock's car, but you basically full throttle all the way until you start to rise up that hill. It's incredible how much speed you carry up into the approach of the pit lane speed limit line.
It is a very sketchy pit lane, depending on the cars you're entering. If you're entering the car with a lot of rear bias, it can be a little bit tricky to get that right when you're pushing for every last little bit you can find. Dean Mole is now into 6th place, pushing behind Trevor Mack. Just behind these guys, though, is Shane Bowen and Cameron Dance. Bowen was behind Dance, so I think Bowen's got back by him. Dance may have made another mistake in this one, because when he spun, I did say that he was going to go behind Dance, and unless I'm mistaken, yeah, Dance did spin on the previous lap, coming through the middle sector of the track through turn 7, I believe it is, and lost out to Bowen. So Dance is driving hard, is driving a bit too hard with that machine. John King and Wayne Taylor, they're going to have to fight hard now. Into turn 1, sweeping to the inside as Wayne Taylor ducks out of view of the onboard shot. And did he duck into pit lane? No, he didn't. He tucks in front of John King, gets that move done very easily.
We said that Taylor was on the charge. It took probably an extra lap from what we thought because of that mistake he'd made. We were on board the last time he was close to making a move, so good to see he's got that done, Wayno. So I know he's a bit under the weather, so he's doing a good job. Up into P12. Wayne Taylor +8, started in 20th, now finds himself in 12th. That's a very, very good effort in a very, very tough car. When you're feeling crook, that's a mega drive at the moment from Wayne Taylor. We're already past a quarter race distance.
Yep, it's flying, this race. And what are the lap times? They're a minute 15s, minute 16s, depending on which driver you are. So Minute 13 if your name is Scott Newton, who's opened up a 4.5 second lead now. Further back, look at this, 4th, 5th and 6th. Very close together now. Trevor Mack, Dean Mole, and Mirko Dortnak. Dean Mole's actually got by Trevor Mack on this lap, 3, 1 and 2, so Mole now claws back one of the spots he's lost. He started from 3rd place, he was back to 6th, now he's back up into 5th.
And Wayne Taylor,
Powers,
another
yeah.
one. Another spot for Taylor.
Goes by Rob Powers on the main straight into turn 1, gets it done, and moves through. Another easy spot for Taylor, who's on a charge, along with Cameron Dance, who's the next car in line for him.
Yeah, and Dance was behind Bowen and then he lost a spot. He's now lost another one, now to Dane Byrne. So that's a few mistakes for Dance. Uncharacteristic in this series to see him make so many mistakes. Does he keep it off the wall? No. So Dance might have to change strategy now too to potentially look at getting some new tyres. We said that the tyres do definitely wear off at around the 22 lap mark. We're on lap 21.
We should see some pit stops very soon for the drivers on the 2-stop strategy, which should be most of the field. They pit around lap 24, 25. Gives them pretty much an even stint, a bit earlier, 23 even. This is a replay of Michael Skurlock, who's now in 20th place because he's made a mistake through turn 1 and spun down to the inside and just kept it off the wall and actually decided to tow back to pit lane. So he joins one of the number of drivers who are now a lap down. Sean O'Hara's made a spin as well. That's through turn 13. That was very close to our race leader, Scott Newton, who is going to make his way one more time by the pit lane and on the racetrack. So 1 lap down, 15th place, Jonathan Bain, who's in pit lane. Sean O'Hara, Jake Fox, Matthew Clowett, Michael Skurlock, Curtis, Matheson, Hunter, all 1 lap down. And Dave Douglas is 7 laps down in pit lane, getting repairs done to that car.
It actually looks like Dave Douglas may have retired. Skurlock has retired too, so Jonathan Bain coming out, 9-second pit stop for him. He's going to come out right with, I believe that's Dortnak. It's coming through. Yeah, Dortnak coming through. It was Purnell as well, was the other car. So Mirko Dortnak will rejoin just ahead of Jonathan Bain. Actually, no. I'm not sure, actually. I don't know where he's gone. It's disappeared on me. Anyway, John King and Rob Powers have come back together now. I'm thinking back to about lap 3 or 4. I'm sure that John King got a move done on Rob Powers very, very early on in this race.
Well, the way that drivers are making mistakes and spinning out there would not surprise me at all if he did make that move and has made a mistake since then. Cameron Dance is into pit lane with a damaged car. I suspect he'll take a fast repair here and get the new car, I should say. Get the fast spare car. The fast quick change into the spare car. That's what I was trying to get out there.
I knew what you were trying to say. Just didn't want to come out the way you were trying to say it. It's a 10-second stop for Dance, so he's taking on a fair bit of fuel there as well. Around about 70 kilos worth of fuel, possibly a new front wing as well to get some damage fixed. Should be around about the 10 seconds of time it's taken, so he may not have jumped into the spare car, just got a new front wing on that car, saving the spare car just in case something really bad goes on. And Dance has gone a lap down as well, which is interesting at this point. Of course, he'll get the lap back, but don't want to go a lap down too early in these races. It's very, very tough to get a lap back in these sort of events. There's Jake Fox and Sean O'Hara get very, very close. The gap at the front now out to 6 seconds. Scott Newton's fastest lap in this race, a 1 minute 13.0. That's incredible pace.
Certainly is, and he did that not too long ago actually, that 13.0, so... And he's into the 12s. He's only getting faster as the fuel wears off this car. John King's had a spin through turns number 1 and 2. He keeps it off the wall by the looks of it. That was right behind our race leader, I think. And through turn 1, too eager on that throttle. He got a bit of that curb, and I think that meant that he was just a bit... He was on the wrong line there through the change of direction, and that car did not want to stick. As Chris Allen's gone by him too now. So Cameron Dance is on track in 17th place, a lap down after taking that pit stop.
This is another replay actually, so fresh tyres for Dance, and second time on fresh tyres, he's had an incident. So Dance is not having a great run on cooler tyres. Nice little reverse back out on the circuit, and he's rejoined, and he's got pressure from behind. We've got two drivers actually have decided to come in now on lap 24, which is, as we said, if you're doing a two-stop strategy, lap 23, 24 would be about the right time. Dean Mole, Trevor Mack both into the pits to take fuel and tyres. Both identical pit stop times too at 8.5 seconds.
See what are these guys struggling to get those tyres up to temp like Cameron Dent seems to be doing as they come out of pit lane. That's Trevor Mack farthing back onto the racetrack and heading into turn 4 about 30 or 40 car lengths behind is a competitor Dean Mole. We've got another replay up on screen. This is Cameron Dent again.
Yep.
It's just going from bad to worse to horrible for Cameron Dent, SimSpeed Esports driver. And he's won the championship. And the focus maybe has gone out the window with that one because he's really struggling today at the moment.
I know he did say that he didn't care a great deal because he'd already sealed the championship, but I think this has gone beyond not caring a great deal and just having a shocker of a night. So, just as I said, uncharacteristic. I think he'd be rather happy with the performance he's putting in at the moment that he'd already sealed the championship, because if he hadn't, he may be a little bit nervous. Daniel Stevens comes in. Great first stint from Stevens. Great to see how many positions he gained. Up 11 spots. I've accidentally clicked the wrong button there. It's come back from a live to another live. That was good. Dane Burns in the background now is into the pits as well.
Quality race director. Quality.
Good job while I'm multitasking.
No, we give you an excuse because you are multitasking. And Jake Fox is going to have to multitask between finding his own line and watching Rob Powers' line to turn 1. He's going to opt to just sit in behind Powers for now, and in front of them, a spin right in front of Powers. Powers goes to the left, and Fox goes to the right. That was Takadia McCarthy, who was fighting them for position. That could have been a big crash. He was right on the racing line. This is the onboard with McCarthy as he goes down the main straight past the start-finish line. He'll turn it into turn 1, and he's going to befall the mistake that everyone else has made today, it seems. Too much throttle through turn 1, and how lucky was Rob Powers there.
He did a great job to work out which way to go there, and a good job from Takadia McCarthy to stop the car to make sure he didn't try and roll it off the line, off the racing line, because that's a thing that a lot of drivers do as soon as they start to spin, is to continue the spin and try and get off the circuit. If he had have done that, he would have taken one of those two drivers, being Powers and Fox. So Jake Fox did take that opportunity to get the move back done, get through. Now Sean O'Hara's there too, as our leader finally comes into the pits after 25 laps.
Don't think he will be disappointed with the stint he's just pulled out. He pits with an 8.2 second advantage over Chris Elm. Daniel Stevens has spun there through turn number 1. Chris Elm has decided not to pit, or I suspect he will be pitting. That seems like it's larger than 8.2 seconds.
Yeah, well,
across the line, the gap is 30.
Yeah, so Chris Owen pitted on that last lap. Scott Newton's already pitted, so only 5, 6, 7 drivers left in the field that have not pitted. Chris Purnell, Mirko Dutnak, John King, Jake Fox, Rob Powers, Sean O'Hara, and Matt Hunter all have not jumped into the pits. Actually, Bradley Matheson as well. So this will sort of shake up the field a little bit, as I just see an issue for Dane Burns out on circuit.
Burns circulating in 11th place, not circulating anywhere at the moment.
He's
in
escaped.
pit lane.
Not even going to try and get the spare car, is he? Had an issue with the car?
Maybe a fault.
The engine sounds like it died. Strange.
Very strange.
I think he's run out of fuel.
Yeah. He hadn't pitted, had he?
No. Hadn't pitted. We'll go back to the onboard here and we'll see.
Right, fair. I think it...
Where's he popped the engine, did he? Still got power?
No. Still got
there
power.
It goes.
Rise, revs are rising, there it goes, yep.
It hasn't popped an engine or anything because there's no smoke coming out from the rear of the car, so I'm fairly sure he's running out of fuel.
That's unfortunate for Dwayne Burns. So he's going to tow that car and get the spare car, or just put some fuel back in the main car, because that's going to cost him a bit of time though. And Scott Newton's on the back of a bit of traffic here. Rob Powers and Sean O'Hara, who've just exchanged positions, and O'Hara's gone ahead of Powers. Jake Fox is not too far up the road as well for 10th place, and Newton's going to find a way by these guys pretty cleanly here. Luckily for him, he's got a lot of room to play with, as now out of the way gets Rob Powers, sidesteps through turn 12. Newton will get O'Hara surely on this main sort of straight here through 13, 14 and 15. That's 14 they're going through now. Flat out kick to the left, and then 15's right here where that pit line starts, and look at that to the inside, and Powers gets by those two. Those of these moves back to the racing line. He carries on his charge out front, unaffected by anyone else, and unchallenged at the moment too.
Still did a 14.8 as well, getting that move done as well. And the other thing I wanted to say about these cars too is that a lot of the way that you dial in the aero in these cars will differentiate your straight line speed as well. So fastest drivers down the front straight, obviously not this car, Scott Newton, because he hasn't really had any draft to be able to use it. Fastest car is Dean Mole in regards to straight line speed. So Dean Mole in 5th position is the fastest car in regards to straight line speed. Fastest car last lap by Chris Owen. He's got a little bit of gap back, now down to 7 seconds. It was 8 seconds before the pit stop cycle started. So that 1 lap earlier stop, it's paying slight dividends right now. Of course, it takes around about 5 or so laps for the tyres to get up to full temp. So these first 5 laps really are a very, very important phase within your race. As Sean O'Hara slow out on circuit too.
He is making his way towards turn 13. It looks like he's had a spin through turn 12. And let's get the replay up from Modem Simulation. Modem Simulation getting a lot of exposure today with the amount of replays we're seeing. And through turn 11 he's gone, and then through turn 12. Whoa. Oh, just completely lost it on the entry there. And spins down onto the apex of the corner. That was a very early loss of control there for O'Hara.
Watch the way the wheel just snaps though. It's such a bizarre snap. Just over that tiny little bump there. And it's, we've seen a couple of times there. I believe it was it Skurlock that had issues there earlier from memory. I'm probably wrong. I remember it was one of the cars that in that team that had issues there. But yeah, there's a slight little bump there which you don't notice in the other cars, but in this car where it's so light, we're 740 odd horsepower, but you're only 600 odd kilos, you really do notice those bumps a lot more. They do exacerbate a bit more, and if you're not generating the aero at that point, the car can definitely lift off the ground and have issues maintaining the grip. I must say, great job from Chris Purnell and Mirko Dirtnak. They have not pitted for fuel and tyres. They're lapping around about the same pace as our race leaders they're going for a one stopper, obviously. So the next 5 laps could be very, very important for those guys. If they can do it with one stop and force those guys ahead to 2 stop it, they could find themselves in a really good spot by the end of this race.
Yeah, they certainly could. And it would explain the pace as well for Purnell at the start of the race, because you wouldn't expect Chris Purnell to be someone that far off the pace. And I know Purnell put in a lot of practice for this one too. So watch these guys here, because at this point in time, if they do this one-stop strategy, everyone else will have to pit one more time. However, no, the point I was going to make was going to be wrong, so I'm not going to make that point.
The only one that we think will probably do a 3-stop race now, maybe Cameron Dance, Jonathan Ben. Unlikely though. I think they'll just do longer 2nd and 3rd stints, but there is a chance that they will go and turn this race into a 3-stopper with around about 14 and 15 lap stints. It is possible, but they could just run 25s and 26 lap stints, which the Illusion Motorsports guys are proving right now that still have pretty decent pace, even though you do it. So that Scott Newton has just come back on his 5th lap out of the pits with 13.5. So he's responded to all of these very, very quick times coming in behind us. That just had a little moment there for Wayne Taylor. The background there in the blue Williams. Also got drivers now going 2 laps down as well, so the pace is phenomenal. We're almost at the halfway point. We're only 40 minutes into this race, not even 40 minutes into the race. There's some great pace going on at the front. Sounds like we just lost Ryan for a sec. He's having a couple of mic issues. He'll get it sorted in just a sec. But Newton to Owen now, 8.1 seconds, with Chris Purnell and Mirko Dortnack 3 seconds further back each. Huge back gap to Dean Mull in 5th. Cameron Dance, who we said got back up into 8th position before his stops. Of course, he had those 2 spins and now finds himself in 15th position, but he's closing in on Jonathan Bain behind.
If anyone would like to... if anyone out there, which I find is highly unlikely, wants to continue hearing my voice up in the SimSpeed commentary box, why don't you go ahead and get in touch and drop me a new headset, because this microphone is on the way out. I hear it's been crackling a little bit with this broadcast too, on occasion, so I'm in need of an upgrade, Joe.
I think a few of us would mind a nice headset upgrade. We'll have to try and sort out a sponsor, I think. If anyone knows anyone that has contacts, let us know. So we're on board here with Daniel Stevens. He's closing in on Shane Bowen. Now, I said before that Stevens was doing a very, very good job, so his pace is looking pretty good over the last couple of laps. Last lap by was 6/10 faster, and already on this lap he's already gained nearly a second. So Daniel Stevens closing in fast. He's looking a lot smoother. Of course, he's pitted around about the same time. He's got 1 lap older tyres, so his pace should be very, very similar to Shane Bowen. Fastest laps of the race, almost identical. Started not too far apart. So we'll see if this battle continues. There's another 4/10 in the favour of Daniel Stevens. The gap now 1.4 seconds in favour of Bowen for now. But you feel it's only a matter of time before Daniel Stevens gets himself up in the 7th spot.
Yeah, you certainly think so. And just having a look at how that gap is evolving too between 1st and 3rd, because Purnell, of course, on that one stop with spec strategy, out to about 13, 14 seconds now. So I don't suspect the strategy will win them the race for Purnell or Dortnack, but it should elevate them up into a top 5 position, which is certainly a net gain on where they were running before the pit stop phases, the first pit stop for these drivers. Most of the field are pretty much single file. There's no close battle packs, or big battle packs. We have got a couple of cars here and there. This is one of them, this Shane Bowen, Daniel Stevens fight. 7th and 8th place, and just in front of Daniel Stevens is Matthew Clowett, who will want to get out of the way of his teammate there, and he does get down to the inside. He's going to let Stevens sweep around the outside of him, and will get the draft of Shane Bowen to help him through. So now the gap between them is just under a second as they make their way through turns 1 and 2. Stevens runs very wide through the exit 1 and compromises himself through 2, so compromises himself through turn 3, and the run all the way down to turn 4. So you'll lose a bit of time there with Daniel Stevens.
Yeah, we know he'll gain it back very, very quickly just based on the performance that he's had. Last lap by 0.6 of a second quicker. So I'll see if he can close in even quicker. I must say, awesome work by Scott Newton, because just behind these guys, you can see, there goes Bowen, there goes Stevens, and there goes Scott Newton, who's just gone past the car of Matthew Clowett. So Scott Newton has already lapped all but 8 cars. He's about to lap the 7th and 8th place cars. So Scott Newton is absolutely flying. This current rate, he should lap all but 4 cars. That's some incredible pace that he's got as we come up to cross the line, effectively halfway at this point of the race, or sorry, this lap by for Scott Newton, because he will cross the line with 36 laps to go, 35 laps complete.
At this rate, this race will finish bang on 6:30 or 7:30 if you're one of the weird people that use daylight savings in Australia. Don't even ask me what time, for those of you watching from internationally, maybe getting some tips out of your American or European race for tomorrow. But 1.5 hour race, and the fuel load difference for these drivers will be interesting too, because we don't expect that many of the field would have started with a full load of fuel in the car, because it slows the car down dramatically. We saw Scott Newton pumping out personal best towards the end of his stint as the car got lighter and lighter. So basically, the less fuel you can run, the better. But if you're going for a one-stop, of course, Purnell would have started with a lot more fuel, which explains his lack of speed at the start. And when he gets on fresh tyres here with the second stop, I'll be interested to see, or first stop, I'll be interested to see how on the same fuel and tyres as the cars in front of him, whether he's able to gain, because of course now he is on much older tyres.
Cameron Dance is starting to make his way back up onto the tail of Jonathan Bain. With last lap by, Dance almost set his fastest lap of the race. And you're right too about that fuel situation. And of course, as we said at the start, big difference between these spec cars and the modern day F1 cars is that you do have fuel refueling in these cars, and they do refuel at the same time as taking tyres. Of course, in the current gen spec cars, which we just see there, Cameron Dance getting through Jonathan Bain, so that was a fairly easy move in the end. Dance now back up into 14th position as Mirko Dortnak comes into the pits, and guess what, we're right on halfway.
Right on halfway as Mirko Dortnak comes down into pit lane and will take his one and only stop for the race. Splits this one down the middle, which is a pretty sensible strategy. You can see how long he's stationary there after the tyres have been fitted, taking enough fuel to get that car home to the end. And let's watch Dortnak now with interest, because let's watch those lap times and see whether he's able to gain on the leaders and maybe perform a big undercut. He was about 14 to 15 seconds back, so maybe he can get closer to them.
Well, he was also closing in on Purnell, his teammate, so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. 11-second stop as well for Dortnak. You compare that to 9 seconds for Newton, who's coming in for another stop. Add another 9 on, that means that he saved 7 seconds of fuel, or sorry, 7 seconds in the stop, probably just in that higher fuel load. If he can get that back, which will be interesting to see if he does, that's a big strategy advantage, and we may see it go from a lot of drivers thinking, oh yeah, it's a two pit stop race, back down to going, hang on, we can really legitimately do this on one. If you can get some really good pace in the car with a really high fuel load, you may turn this into a one pit stop race for those later splits, because it looks like it could be a possible and viable strategy call based on the pace that Dortnak and Purnell had, with an exact 11-second pit stop for Chris Purnell as well. So, yeah, I think this might be a viable strategy call. And a few of the guys that have been watching from our Americas and European regions will be going, hang on, one stop? I hadn't actually considered that this would be a one-stop race, but I think that the weather conditions I actually thought would have made it more viable for a 3 pit stop race. Track has cooled off a little, but it looks like the one stop may be the go.
Just maybe, but if you've got someone like Scott Newton in your race, who has put everyone but the top 6 a lap down, I'm not sure there's any strategy you can really do that's going to land you with a win, because Newton is in a land of his own right now. He's just comfortably lapping quicker than Chris Allen and Chris Purnell every single lap, and the gap's getting bigger and bigger from first to second. He's putting more and more people a lap down. By the time we finish this race, I wouldn't be surprised to see just 4 cars, Newton, Allen, Purnell and Dortnak, on the lead lap, as we see some more pit stops now from Rob Powers, and I think that was Jake Fox as well.
Yep, so still 3 cars yet to make their... it's not a compulsory pit stop, it's just mathematically impossible to save 30 kilos of fuel in this race. Of course, Formula 1 don't use litres, it's all based off the weight of the fuel load, so 150 kilos of fuel required or thereabouts in this race, and you do start with a maximum of a 120. So even if you fill it up at the start and try and save, it's almost impossible, and the tyres will be absolutely destroyed by then as well. But King, O'Hara and Matt Hunter all yet to come in and make a stop at all in this race. John King, the highest of the drivers that has made no stops, the highest driver of anyone that has fueled up and tyred up to get home at the end, is Chris Purnell in 3rd position. John King's no longer the lead driver on that group that is yet to make a stop, because he's in the pits right now.
Do you know how many litres these cars can hold? If they can hold 120 kilograms, Jay?
going to add it up and work it out. Give me a second. I do know the conversion, so I will work it out. Do you know the answer already?
I do.
Okay, you've already done the conversion?
It's
around
1 to
100
1. So
No, I don't believe
know
it is
why.
one. I don't believe it is 1 to 1.
Well, Google must be lying to me then, because Google said that it was 1 liter equals 1 kilo. So
Yeah, 1 litre of water equals 1 kilo, but not 1 litre of fuel, because fuel is lighter than water, because that's why it sits on top. Remember, oil is lighter than water, which is why oil sits on top of the water when you put oil in the ocean. Which you never want to do, is Dean Mole through on Chris Purnell. I believe it's about 0.75 kilos per litre. But I do know the conversion. It's not 1 to 1 though.
I don't like science. Search it up, Jay.
Matt, you don't like maths and science, but you like motorsport? You're in the wrong game. Maths and science is what motorsport is all about, really.
Shush. I like commentary, okay? In the racing, I don't do the engineering side of things. That's too technical for me. I don't like that sort of stuff. Yeah, Dean Moll's gone through on Chris Purnell and is up into 4th place.
94 kilos, by the way, is a 120... 94 litres, sorry. No, sorry, I'll do that again. I'll do my conversion again. That's not right. If you do 120 litres of fuel, it's 94 kilos. I'll do my conversion again. I'll be back to you.
Dr. Director Jay Kennedy over there, trying to figure it all out for us. He's trying to.
What did I say originally? 100. I said around about 150 litres for 120 kilos. It's 152. It's a conversion.
Okay. Well, there you go. I've learned something new today. My job's done. As Takati and McCarthy gets right out of the way of those guys. It's just in behind him. We're watching Jonathan Bain, who's back in 15th place. Is McCarthy and McCarthy out of field? No. He was just driving very slowly.
Yeah.
So, just getting out of the way. The lead lap cars, which is a great decision from him. Let's get a replay up. This is Trevor Mack. Mack has spun.
Oh, he's done a camera dance.
6th place. He's done a dance. Did he get that with the front and the rear? I didn't quite catch that. He definitely got the rear end. So damage to both end car.
And we saw Riley Curtis was in that battle there with Jonathan Bain. He was a lap down. But Riley Curtis might be day done. Next corner, right here, we're going to see the incident. Bounce it over the curb right here, and there it is, off into the wall. And that is the same thing that we saw with Matthew Clowett. So Curtis, too much damage. He's decided to bring him in the pits. And Sean O'Hara's just come into the pits to make his final stop, or one and only stop. He's only got to do 30 laps. That's a really good first stint. He's done 40 laps in that first stint. So he's done a great job. And as you said, Trevor Mack in to get that damage fixed. Probably get some damage fixed as well. Chris Purnell, we know, is on a completely different strategy to Dean Mole. So I'm sure that there wasn't too much fighting at all when he let Dean Mole through. But what he's doing now, he's using that draft to his advantage and keeping that gap managed to Dean Mole. So this is going to be an interesting little fight over the next little bit to see whether Purnell maintains the gap, can close the gap, and whether he gets back past before Dean Mole comes into the pits in around about 6 or 7 laps time.
Certainly be as 30, 20, 28 laps to go in this race. Getting down to the conclusion. Trevor Mack is now dangerously close to losing the lead of the race too after his pit stop. Matthew Clowett has joined the long list of drivers to have made a mistake. Has he kept that off the wall? Has he tucked into that little gap between where that tyre barrier starts and the Armco ends? I think he might have.
Oh, he might have hit it.
He's just clipped it, but he parked that car beautifully. I'll give him that at least. Look at this. Spins it right out.
Oh, maybe he didn't hit the wall.
I don't think he did.
He hit the tyres on the side, but I don't know if he hit the wall.
Yeah. I'm going to give that a parking job of the year there for Clowett. That was a good recovery from that spin.
That's the feeling you get when the missus says, quick, there's a park over there at the shopping centre. You chuck the handbrake on and you just slide it straight in. That was a good effort. Well done.
Alrighty. So Trevor Mack, after his pit stop and spin, has gone down to 8th place behind Stevens, Bowen. And yeah, Stevens and Bowen. So now it leaves just 5 cars on the lead lap as Curtis comes out of pit lane 2. Purnell is now 51 seconds off the lead of the race. Pit stops are taking about 30 or so seconds, aren't they? So that means that Newton's going to have quite a handy lead, even with the fresh tyres that Purnell and Dornack are going to be racing around with. Could be a good battle here too between Mole and Chris Purnell. That one looks to be closing out. It's 1.5 seconds at the moment. And in a second, Purnell will be in his draft as Riley Curtis has had yet another spin.
It's been a day to forget for Riley Curtis, and we saw the Formula race last time we did one of these Formula 1 style cars here on SimSpeed. It's always really, really tough ask for drivers that aren't experienced in these cars to jump in and do a race in these cars. They are really difficult cars to drive anyway, but I get drivers that don't necessarily have huge amounts of skill with these type of vehicles. It's a really, really tough ask. So well done to the drivers that have kept it off the wall and kept it in a straight line. It's never an easy ask to get drivers that aren't used to these cars to get out there and have a go, because I know that from my experience, I've done a couple of races in this and in the McLaren, and if I get 6 laps in without hitting the wall, I'm feeling like I've won the race, let alone how these guys are doing 71 without even spinning or looping it or cutting the course or ripping the front wing off it. I don't know how they're doing it. Although they have talent and I don't, so that may explain it.
I wasn't really listening. I'm trying to sort us out an interview here, Jay. I want to bring Dave Douglas up into the box, and I'm trying to convince him to come and chat to us about how this car is handling, because he is, of course, out of the race. And with Riley Curtis back in 21st, he should be out of. He should be our sportsman champion too. So, Dave, if you're listening, check your messages, mate. I want to interview you.
Yep, he is watching and listening, because he was laughing about our horrible maths discussion before. So come on in for a chat and celebrate your championship win, because we would like to have all the season champions in for a quick chat post-race. So, of course, we already gave Cameron Dance a chance to have a chat last round when he picked up the win at Mount Panorama in the iRacing V8 Aussie touring car. Wayne Taylor's had his first little excursion off the road, and who was that running off the circuit with him? Dane Burns. He's gone off in sympathy with him. So Wayne Taylor's dropped a spot there too to Cameron Dance. So Dance back into 9th position now.
And ask and you shall receive. Here we have with us our 2019 Sportsman Champion, Dave Douglas. You've got this one wrapped up with Curtis back in 21st. Congratulations, mate.
Yeah, hey guys. Yeah, shame I'm not on the track, but yeah, obviously it ended earlier for me, but the championship's all sorted, so yeah, pretty happy with that. Been consistent all year, and yeah, come away with the win.
It's a tough series to perform well on, isn't it, Dave? Because you've got a bit of everything in there. Just sort of talk us through your mindset for the series coming into rounds where you might not be too strong, or rounds where you think you're going to do well, and you've got so many different cars and tracks you've got to try and adapt to, don't you?
Yeah, exactly, and that's the beauty of it, to be honest. That sort of attracted me, different makes, models, tracks, all sorts of things to keep you on your toes. And yeah, so you do have your strong races that you can see. You check out your calendar and put a red mark around them. And then the ones that you're not going to do too well at, you just sort of try and conserve and finish and be consistent. And that's what I've done this year, is just try to be consistent for the most of the part. And then, yeah, it worked out for us.
To see on the screen, Wayne Taylor's at a spin there. We're going to replay for that. And Dave, in terms of that Sportsman Championship before today, and I suspect at the conclusion of today as well, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4 for RCD Sim Sports. How's the cohesion between the team and the teamwork between all 4 and even more of your drivers this season?
Yeah, it's been good. As most people know, I'm leaving the team at the end of the season, and I believe the team may even be closing after this season's done. So it's been really good. The boys have always been there helping out each other and working together to make the cars, setups and whatever else. Riley with the paint work, so some of the best paint jobs I've seen on iRacing. But yeah, it's been great. It's been fun, and yeah, unfortunately it didn't go to our plan or my plan today. I know the boys are still out there lapping now, so hopefully they can get a solid result.
Well, there's a scoop for you. Potentially Riley Curtis's eyes closing down. I hope they don't close down because I love those liveries out on track, and this team has pretty much wrapped up the Sportsman Teams Championship too, so a good team in terms of speed as well. Well, how about you give us another scoop, Dave? Can you officially confirm what team you're going to be heading towards, where we're going to see you in the Major Series 2020?
Yeah, so obviously I'll move up to Pro for the next series next year, and I'll be driving for Illusion Motorsport with those guys up there, Chris Purnell and the boys. So looking forward to that and getting amongst it.
Well, that's going to be a formidable team, isn't it, Jay? Because Illusion Motorsports, they missed a few rounds this year and still pushing hard for the win of the team's championship. So add Dave Douglas to the mix. What do you think, Jay? I think that's going to be the team to beat.
Potentially, I mean, Kinetic Swift this year, but Kinetic have always been really strong, so it's going to be good to see how that goes. Oh, little mistake there for Scott Newton. Almost made contact there with the MFR car there. I'm not sure who that was. I think it may have been Brad Matheson. But yeah, the team's championship for 2020, I think it's going to be absolutely epic. I've heard rumours as well that a couple other teams are looking to enter full-pronged attacks into this championship next season too. So fingers crossed we see that, and that should mean that we'll have a fantastic season for 2020. With the schedule announced on Monday, I think that will help rally a few troops, and we could see a really, really awesome season in 2020 as well. So congratulations on a fantastic championship. Obviously not the way you wanted to wrap it up, but for the most part it's been a fairly consistent campaign for you, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, as said, just being consistent and plugging away at it, and yeah, obviously 400 points, well, was 400 points, it's going to close now, but yeah, it's been pretty dominant, I guess.
Well, thank you so much for jumping in and keeping us company up here, Dave, and talking to us mid-race, and we'll let you get back to watching the broadcast and cheering on your drivers who are still on this one. Congratulations once again, and I look forward to seeing you in 2020 in this series.
Yeah, cheers guys, and a big shout out to SimSpeed also for putting on this great broadcast every race for Majors. It's been great. Cheers guys.
Thank you very much. Well, that was Dave Douglas jumping in, your Sportsman Champion 2019, and we've spoken to Cameron Dance, we've spoken last round, we've spoken to Dave Douglas now, and hopefully at the end of the race we'll be able to speak to John King, to our Legends Champion.
And of course, as we said before, he won the Legends Championship last year, and he will go back to back, and he's going to be formidable again next year already. We don't know too many that will be able to challenge him for it. This year was a little bit closer than last year, but he's just been dominant throughout this series. He's just such a consistent driver, and you know, those races that you can't win when you're in a championship fight, if you can somehow scale yourself up to a top 5 or a top 8 position when you've got a 30-40 car field, those are the races that win your championships. It's not the race wins that you get, it's the good performances in rounds that could be absolutely horrible and disastrous for your campaign that are the ones that win you the championship. Chris Owen in the pits now, and that's what the difference between John King and the other drivers in that championship fight has been, is that King has just been so good at getting points in those races that he hasn't been able to win or be right up at the pointy end for. And today's another fine example. Look, he doesn't have the pace to be right at the front. He's doing enough to find himself just outside the top 10 and could possibly steal a top 10 based on a different strategy call. So this is going to be an interesting finale over the next 20 laps. 20 laps to go. How did that happen?
Well, they drove around the racetrack a 50-odd times.
Yeah, I think that's how it works.
Chris Owen's pit stop was only 8.3 seconds, and he's going to rejoin all on his lonesome. Can't see on the car in shot for Chris Owen, so a lonely bit of racetrack for him. Chris Purnell and Mirko Dorn come dangerously close to being lapped by Scott Newton as well, so we could see 2 cars on the lead lap. But of course, Newton's still yet to make a second pit stop. Jake Fox in 11th place for Kinetic Swift Racing. It's been a good race, this one. A lot of no sort of messy incidents. A lot of drivers have made mistakes, which we sort of expected, to be honest, with the nature of this car. It's quite a difficult car to drive, and with what is now a 48-degree track temp, it was up to 50 at one point. Not surprised to see the attrition we've seen, but nice clean racing from everyone, with the exception of those mistakes, and a good ending to the 2019 season, and I can't wait for 2020. It's going to be an absolute cracker, and we can get all these drivers back. We'll get a few more drivers new to the series back for the full season, and a bit of everything. If you like dirt racing, we've got that. If you like oval racing, we've got that. If you like road racing, we've got that. Of course, we expect we've got all that. We had that in 2019. I expect we'd have all that again in 2020.
I'm fairly sure we'll have all of that plus more again, and probably going to see it 7-7 split again with the 14-round championship. Be 7 road races, 7 oval races again. And, always interesting.
That's good.
Well, I'll just confirm that it's a 14-round championship once again, as it has been every time. So, but it's usually 7-7. The interesting thing I find is those races, the oval races that aren't either the NASCAR, the Gen 6 NASCAR, or the IndyCar. Those are the races that really determine how a championship's going to play out, I feel. They're the ones that are really tough for some drivers to get a handle on. So we've seen previously, we had the sprint car, we've had other different cars, late model, or last year we had the super late model. Those races are the ones, and this year we had the Lotus 49. Those races are the ones that really determine who can win a championship, because they're such a difficult car track combination from what the drivers are used to. Unless they specialise in that car, it's a new experience to them, and fingers crossed we see some of those alternate combinations again next season. I'd love to see an oval-based car on a road course. They're some of my favourite combinations, something like the truck or the Xfinity car racing around a road course. They're always some good combinations. So fingers crossed we see something like that. Probably won't, because there's so many unbelievable real-world combinations that we don't need to make something up. But I wouldn't be surprised to see something a little out there, and something that people wouldn't be expecting, but something that doesn't not make sense as well. Like the experience we had this year at the Milwaukee Mile was one of those that it seemed left field when we saw it, but it made sense at the same time.
Two things. Yes, this year the Tony Bettenhausen 200 we had, you thought it could decide championships. It didn't decide this one, but Cameron Dance, the guy who's won this championship, was out of control for literally every single one of those laps. So things like that can definitely prove a wild card. And yeah, here's a real world race that we could have. Of course, the major series recreates a lot of the major events around the global motorsport calendar. So, something like the Cup cars definitely go racing at Watkins Glen and Sonoma. The Xfinity cars go to Road America, and do they go to Road Atlanta? No, Road America and Mid-Ohio for either the trucks or the Xfinity. I think it's the trucks that go to Mid-Ohio. Scott Newton, though, is in pit lane. Barring any dramas in Newton, he'll get dropped off the track, so he'll get a little bit extra fuel, he'll come out of pit lane, and he'll be in the lead of the race, still ahead of Chris Owen, as we're watching a battle too for 7th place. Shane Bowen and Cameron Dance, who went right to the back of the field with a spin early on in this race, now finds himself on the back of 7th and potentially able to move up yet another spot. He's been charging back through the field ever since that mistake.
The issue that he's got right now is he's going to get past Bowen. He still has to make one more stop, so Dance only made that one stop, which was a really early stop for damage to get himself back out in contention. So I find it hard to believe that Dance will go all the way to the end. I mean, he could, but the pace that he's got at the moment, to me, says that he is running low on fuel, because last lap by he just did his fastest lap of the race, so I don't think he's got too many more laps before he'll bring it in.
It shouldn't be too long for Cameron Dance. 13.7 last time by, which isn't a bad lap, because Scott Newton last time by was a 13.7. Of course, he did come into pit lane though, but an interesting thing with Interlagos is that pit entry line is almost bang on the start-finish line, or it might even be bang on it, so you can pump out lap times that are just about on your race pace, even when you come down to pit lane. As Scott Newton has an astonishingly big lead over Chris Owen, who's only just coming through turn 14 now, and through turn 15, so I'll give you the gap as they cross the line as we watch Cameron Dance. The gap between the first top two is 20.9 seconds. That catapulted out massively. What happened there? Because Allen was only about 10 seconds back before the pit stop phases.
I'm going to guess Chris Owens had a mistake at some point there and lost himself about 10 seconds. We've obviously missed that, unfortunately. Cameron Dance, the only driver left in the field other than Ryan Decartier McCarthy, who are yet to make their final pit stop. So, looks like we've only got 2 cars left to pit. Decartier McCarthy may possibly make it home on his fuel and tyres situation. I don't think he will. I think he'll have to come into pit. And the other point I want to make too is that we've only had 4 drivers.
Chris Purnell. Have a look at Chris Purnell. He's slowing on the track.
Oh,
he's
no, he's
running
got
in
smoke.
3rd place right now. And he's popped the engine from the back of that car. I hadn't seen that. I was riding on the cockpit cam with Purnell down the main straight. He suddenly slowed up before the entry into turn 1. And then we can see now why that occurred. He's popped the engine on that machine. Look at it from the tail cam, as we'll call it. Right there, that's where I saw it on board. He swapped back to the right-hand side. He downshifted almost too early, but I mean, I said I was watching from the cockpit, and I didn't see anything abnormal in terms of downshift. You can look at it yourselves here.
It just slowed up before then, though. It just went on in a straight line.
Yeah, and it was very strange there. Very strange with Purnell. And I'll be very interested to see what's happened there, if we can get a chat to him post-race, because
he's still accelerating at the point that it blows.
Strange. Maybe he's running too much. Yeah, not enough.
Is the engine overheated or something?
Something, but that's strange. But he's all by himself, so you wouldn't suspect an overheated engine. But that's another twist of this race, and that's going to leave just 3 cars on the lead lap.
The point I was about to make before that too is there's only been 4 drivers who have punched in best lap times of less than 1 minute 14. So 1 minute 12.8 for Scott Newton. Chris Owen, a 1:13.3, 1:13.6 for Dean Mole, and 1:13.7 for Cameron Dance. Everyone else is in the 1:14s, 1:15s, and some drivers even in the 1:16s for their fastest lap. So, yeah, interesting that that's happened. As we've got another interview ready to go. We've got Riley Curtis waiting by to come and jump in and say hello.
There you go. Let's drag Riley Curtis in to the broadcast booth. Riley, welcome and congratulations on what should be 2nd place in the sportsman settings. I was going to go have a double check that you can't be overtaken, but if memory serves me correct, and it should with Matt Hunter in 3rd, a bit down the order too. So congratulations, 2nd place. That makes it a 1, 2, 3, 4 for RCD.
Hey, g'day boys. Yeah, we've had a pretty good season in sportsman for our first go round. 1, 2, 3, 4.
We heard an interesting comment from Dave Douglas. Yeah, we had a chat with him before you jumped in, and he mentioned something potentially about RCD SimSport is closing down. Tell me it's not true, Riley.
Yeah, shutting up at the end of the year. Made the decision some months back now to go in another direction, as have the other drivers. So we'll see where everyone ends up next year. I think Dave has already told you guys where he's off to.
Yeah. Well, it's a big shame because obviously you've wrapped up the Sportsman Championship. You're a very fast team. You've run in a lot of events. We've seen you in oval racing here in Australia, and obviously this major series. We see you in the Australian touring cars too sometimes. So obviously we've heard where Douglas is going to go, and see yourself. We're going to see you in the major series next year, aren't we? But who for is the question.
Yeah, definitely be back. Like, I enjoy running in all the series. So we obviously do the oval racing and we do quite well there, but I can't quite say yet. I've been summoned to silence for a little bit.
Alright, well, you can... You're as bad as Jay, I'll tell you what. Jay teases me constantly about secrets he's got. You're as bad as Jay, Riley, but
You've got to keep the tongue wagging, so...
I do torment you quite a lot about some of the things that we've got planned going on behind the scenes that I can't tell you about, so yeah, I'm a bit of a tease like that, but Wayne Taylor's had a bit of an incident even, if I could speak English, just same corner that's caught, I think, 7 or 8 different drivers out. I know, Riley, you are having a lot of trouble through the circuit. Talk us through your unfortunate end of the race. Is just car balance not right for you in regards to race pace, or just couldn't quite get a handle on the car, or something more to it?
Towards the end there, when I ended up exiting by putting too much damage on the car. It was just pushing a bit too hard, trying to make up the time that I lost earlier when I had a few issues. On the heavier fuel, not quite as good, but when the fuel came off, it was pretty quick.
Just
You
while
can
we're
take the rest of
chatting.
the interview if you want.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we're just watching an incident here for Sean O'Hara. He's actually decided to exit the car and go back to the pits, and that's probably why the car's fairly heavily damaged there. So he's now out of the race. But talking about next year, you're looking to have a full-on charge at the entire championship, or we just be seeing you just do some of the more popular races, or what's the plan for you in regards to the championship for 2020?
Yeah, I'll have another full season tilt. I think I missed one race this year. Next year the plan's to come back with the new team, have another crack, see if we can go better. I'll probably step up to the Pro Championship. We did quite well in the Sportsman, so we'll step it up, set a new.
And what a way for the team to finish up as well with a championship win as well. It's must be a pretty good feeling around the team, even though they are all going separate ways. To win a championship as you're finishing up is always a really big positive for a team.
Yeah, especially to win it in such dominant fashion with 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, the boys, it's a great team to be with. We all work quite well together. There's no little niggles or anything, so it's sad to see it finishing, but newer things will come, and hopefully everyone goes well next year with where they.
Well, congratulations on a very, very good year for you and your team. And fingers crossed we also see some of your awesome paints out there for 2020 as well. And hopefully we see a few more Riley Curtis Designs cars out there next year as well.
Yeah, hopefully there's a few things in the pipeline, so we'll see how everything goes.
Congratulations on the great year, Riley Curtis, joining us as we're down into the final 10 laps, Ryan. It's starting to get down to the crucial phase, and still a couple of battles still yet to be decided.
Yeah, indeed, and starting to wrap down the lead is 25 seconds for Newton. It's a 1 minute 7 seconds back to Mirko Dolnak. He will struggle, I think, to stay on the lead lap here. Dean Mole is running in 4th place, and Chris Purnell is in 5th about, I can't quite see the gap because they're both a lap down, but it looks like it's about 4 or 5 seconds.
Yeah, Mole is actually losing ground to Chris Purnell, so it's down to 2.9 seconds. That gap, still a couple
I was
other.
a long way off.
You were, but that's all right. I've got all the live data in front of me, so I can see it all. Daniel Stevens to Cameron Dance is probably the next battle that we need to keep an eye on too, as Jake Fox has just had a moment and is off the circuit again. So he was actually closing in on Rob Powers, looking to make a move, but he'll have to do that all again. Cameron Dance has just set his fastest lap of the race with a 13.5, so he's closing in on Daniel Stevens to try and get himself back up into 8th position. Here's Dance now. He has come in and made that final stop, as we saw too, so he's got fueled up, ready to go all the way to the end. Ryan McCarthy may still have to come in and make another pit stop, but we shouldn't see anyone else in other than guys that come in to get damage fixed like we just saw for Sean O'Hara. Still 19 drivers out there out of our 23 that started, which is an awesome sight, as lap traffic here for Dance is getting really messy, which is not the optimal way for him to try and get this gap closed down. He's just lost a little bit of ground there to Daniel Stevens ahead, but Daniel Stevens now, the car right in his radar.
It is, and one of those cars was Matt Hunter, who is that man in 3rd place, trying to hunt down Riley Curtis, but he is back in 18th place, so won't pick up enough points to leapfrog Curtis right at the end of the championship, unfortunately, but he's driven a great season too, and just been very consistent to come home in 3rd. And another consistent race. He doesn't quite have the pace, but he's finishing the race, which is what matters, because when we get to the end of the season, every little point counts. Cameron Dance wants some more points. He doesn't need them, but he definitely wants them. He's got Daniel Stevens in front of him. The gap is closing. It is 1.1 seconds, thank you, Jay. And,
no worries. And closing even further.
Yeah, 0.8 of a second, and I dare say, by the time they get to turn 1, we'll see side by side Dance and Stevens.
I actually think it could be done before then, because look at how much he's closed it in. It's now at a 0.6 of a second, so Dance is flying at the moment, and it's closing even further, so I think we're going to see this move done very, very quickly from Dance. But no, you might be right, actually. It might be done at turn 1. You might not get it done before then. It could be down the front straight, but yeah, side by side through into turn 1 I think might be the right answer. I'll let you have this one. Let's see. Will Dance have to go the long way around though? That's the interesting thing here. Because they're in such a late phase of the race, Daniel Stevens could defend the inside into turn 1 here.
The Interlagos circuit, you've really only got two big overtaking opportunities and big high downforce cars. That is down here at turn 1 to Cameron Dance, who had a look but couldn't quite get it done. And now he's going to set himself up through turn 2 to get a good run through turn 3. Useless draft on the shoot down to turn 4. And down to the inside of the other big overtaking opportunity. Down here at turn 4 to the inside for Cameron Dance. A bit of oversteer on the mid-corner, but gets the move done. Moves up into 8th place, and luckily he did, because otherwise he probably would have had to sit in behind him for a lap.
It's a really tough track to overtake on. I mean, we see when we race our V8 Scops races here, it's become a staple in the series, but a lot of overtaking happens here, but in these higher downforce cars, it is a really, really tough track to pass on. The surface is abrasive, but it doesn't seem to wear down the tyres in these sort of cars anywhere near as much as it does an Australian touring car or other tin top cars. But in the open wheel cars or the high downforce cars, it really does provide limited passing opportunities, which is surprising. You look at this track on paper and then you see how much elevation there is. You think, oh yeah, there'd be passing everywhere, but you're right, there really is only 2, maybe 3 passing spots. Turn 1, turn 4, and maybe through the infield if you're lucky to get side by side at some point, but it's not a huge amount of passing spots, as there's a car spun just in front of Dance's Jonathan Bain. Is that another spin? It's another MFR car having trouble at turn 1. They've had trouble there all day, which is unfortunate. Daniel Stevens, though, he's going to take advantage of this. Will he have a run, have the momentum into turn 1? Thought about it, pulls out at the last moment.
And overcooks the corner by a long way as well, so that was very close for Dance, and almost got rear-ended by Daniel Stevens too, who had to check up to avoid Dance. Obviously was very slow as a result of this. He spun to the left and then came back to the right across the racing line, and luckily just got off to the right-hand side of that apex before Cameron Dance arrived on the scene.
Just see here from Dance's point of view, turns it in and there's a car going, whoa, hang on, which way do I go? Got on the brakes a little bit. Good job from Dance to avoid contact. He did a really good job there, but yeah, Daniel Stevens did have a little chance to come in. And something's happened to Ryan DeCartier-McCarthy, because I'm just seeing him in the pits now. See if we can rewind. We might be able to pick up a modem simulation replay of what's happened to DeCartier-McCarthy. Here we go. Got it now on screen. Coming up in just a moment. But his day might be done.
I'm going to take a wild bet and say he's used too much throttle through turn 1. We've seen it so many times today. And no. Oh, he's just gone wide through turn 1. And just that car never turned for him. Got the grass and unsurprisingly was fired into the wall on the left. And that car has a lot of damage to it. And you can see that the car just never really turns in for him. And unfortunately, it really turned in when he got that grass.
No, you saw that was Jonathan Bain just ahead that was still spun, so we'd missed that while we were watching the cars pull away, and that's why you see DeCartier-McCarthy's driven it into the pits or escaped back to the pits. That car was really heavily damaged. So go back to the front of the field. Scott Newton's got 4.5 laps to go.
Just 4.5 laps of 71. He has 30 seconds to play with. One other driver on the lead lap. This has been absolutely dominating from Newton. It reminds me of the domination from James Scott in the Bathurst, in the Majors Bathurst 500 a couple of rounds back, where he just absolutely clean bowled the field in the Australian touring car there, and Scott Newton is doing things of similar magnitude today, because from pole position he was challenged for the first 5 laps by Chris Owen, or Owen or Owen, but since then just started to pull away and has never once looked back.
It's been an absolutely phenomenal drive, very consistent drive. He's back into the 12s again now too, so we could see him break the fastest lap of the race here in the last 2 or 3 laps. We'll see if he does, but current best of a 12.5. Last lap by was a 12.6, so see if the traffic plays in his favour. If he gets hurt a bit by traffic, he won't break it, but I'd be surprised to see him get into the very, very low 12s in the next 2 or 3 laps. Across the line, he'll have 3 to go. I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks that fastest lap of the race on the last lap. We'll see how he goes.
bit of draft of the lap to go, might just do it. He's got some draft now, that's off Daniel Stevens, who we just watched a moment ago, battling for 8th place, is about to go 2 laps down. And this time by for Scott Newton, it's a 12.3, and he's just getting quicker and quicker. That was his fastest lap of the race. I wonder, I think we're very close to seeing an 11 here from Scott Newton, which should be astonishingly quick. They're only doing 1:11s in qualifying for this race, so this match qualifying time at the end of 70 laps would be astonishing.
Yeah, to think that he's the only driver doing 12s is into the low 12s and could be doing an 11 by the end of the race. It's going to be an interesting finale here, the last 2.5 laps. So we just tick over 1 hour and 24 minutes, so it should be about 1 hour 27 for race distance. And, only 2 cars on the lead lap in the end. That just shows the drive that we've had and seen here from Scott Newton in this one. He's just been textbook. You're writing the textbook on how to race this race. Scott Newton's done it, led all but 1 lap at this point. Of course, that lap that he didn't lead was lap 1, where he just had a slightly bad launch into turn 1. Chris Owen took the advantage on that first lap, but ever since then, Scott Newton has never looked back.
Why don't we just soak up and listen to the sound of the car for the next lap, AJ?
Gonna have to cut away for a second because Chris Purnell's looped it at turn 1. And Purnell in 5th position. He could nearly lose that to Trevor Back. We'll get a replay and see what's happened here to Chris Purnell.
I just wanted to soak in the sound of that car. You never get tired of listening to this engine scream around the racetrack, and Purnell's looped it through turn 1. Too much throttle, or tipped it at too much speed, and had to wait for 2 cars to go by for a give it a flick spin and get back the right way. He should manage to hold off Trevor Mack though. He's still got about 6 or so car lengths advantage. But for Scott Newton, he has taken the final lap of the race, and just 4.3 kilometers or less now for Newton to navigate around this racetrack as he makes his way through the infield section. I mean, you can't really fault Newton for this race because he's been mistake-free. Every single driver in the field, it seems, has made a mistake at some point today. Chris Owen dropped a bunch of times that he surely made a mistake we missed. Dornack's made mistakes. Mole, Purnell, Matt, everyone has run into their own issues. Everyone except for one man, the driver of car number 921. Scott Newton, take a bow, my friend, because that is a stunning drive. As he comes around turns 14, turns 15 at full throttle and full noise, he screams across the line, a celebration, and Scott Newton wins the final round of 2019 for the international region. He wins the Brazilian Grand Prix by over 30 seconds. Chris Owen will come home in second, but Dornack will cross the line first because he is a lap down to take 3rd place. Dean Mole will take 4th ahead of Chris Owen, who has just had to avoid a spinning car there of Matt Hunter, and they're all a bit topsy-turvy coming across the line because they're a lap down or 2 laps down. They're all out of sequence, but Chris Owen, don't be mistaken, he's going to come home in second. The only man that could challenge Scott Newton at any point today, but even he falls 36.8 seconds adrift in the end. 2nd place, I think the season's out. Congratulations to Chris Owen on that one. Podium position. This battle's going down right down to the wire. Shane Bowen and Cameron Dance. Bowen in 7th place, trying to hold off Cameron Dance, who's charged back through the field. He's going to be right in this slipstream through turn 14 and on the main straight. This could be a photo finish for 7th place. Look at Bowen covering the inside, and Dance goes to the outside, side by side across the line. Dance will take 7th right out of the death. Great finish between Dance and Bowen. Unfortunately for Bowen, wrong spot, wrong time, just got done at the end. And that is most of the drivers across the line.
If 2/100ths of a second separating those two guys at the end there, and how close was that to getting contact between those two drivers as well, being Dance and Bowen. Well done to Shane Bowen though for a great fight. Well done to Dance for a recovery drive. Remember he was last at turn 4 on lap 1. He's come back to 7th position right at the line, but Scott Newton, absolute world of his own in this race. Fantastic job.
Certainly was. Let's go through the unofficial results here from the Grand Prix of Brazil. Taking home the win, Scott Newton from Chris Owen, then Mirko Dornak home in 3rd for Illusion Motorsport ahead of Connect Swift Racing driver Dean Mole. Chris Purnell rounded out the top 5. Trevor Mack came home in 6th. Cameron Dance just pipped Bowen for 7th, and Bowen, as a result, came home in 8th.
We've got Daniel Stevens and John King 9th and 10th position, with Rob Powers in 11th, only a second back from John King in the end. Jake Fox in 12th position with Wayne Taylor in 13th. Good job from him, even though he is feeling unwell. 14th position goes to Dane Burns with Jonathan Bain. And also Sean O'Hara rounding out the top 16 as we go to the last page. And Ryan's mic's playing up again, so I'll finish it off. Matt Hunter, Brad Matheson, Ryan DeCarthy and McCarthy, the last of the finishers. Then the DNFs, unfortunate for Matthew Clowett, Riley Curtis, Michael Skurlock, and Dave Douglas. I'm sure we'll have Ryan back now. There he is.
And, yeah. I love technology. And that is our race done here today. We should have a couple drivers ready for interviews. We don't. We've got just the one. We've got Mirko Dornak, who came home in 3rd place. So let's grab Mirko Dornak in for an interview today. And let's talk to the man who finished in 3rd. But Mirko, 3rd place, podium finish. Congratulations. But man, Scott Newton out front, you had nothing for him, did you? And no one really did you?
Nah, he was on another level, and Chris as well. Those two blokes were just amazingly quick. Yeah, good race. I mean, I'm just glad I finished in one piece. Didn't make any mistakes, and brought it home on the podium for the team. So, good points.
Just talk us through how difficult this car was to drive today, because it seemed like everyone except Scott Newton made a mistake and spun at some point.
Yeah, I was just scared of that for the whole 70 laps. Yeah, it's under throttle, very difficult. Even our car, out of the last corner, it gets a little bit twitchy if you get up onto the curb. But yeah, super difficult to keep under control. Just got to be really progressive on the throttle.
In terms of your championship and the championship for your team, yourself will finish home and just outside the top 8 in the pro drivers, but your team has come home in 2nd. And talk us through the teamwork for Illusion Motorsports, and how confident are you of coming back next year and challenging for a championship win for that team and for yourself even?
Oh, that's one of our goals for next year. I mean, we didn't start this race off the best. Mick had some hardware issues with his pedals before the race, so he was frantically trying to fix that, and then his car just wasn't working. I guess because of that pedal issue that he had, and because we were looking strong, we were looking super strong, and Chris, unfortunately, something went wrong with his engine. I saw him smoking. I don't know, 20 laps to go. Not sure what happened there, but yeah, he had to go into the pits and get it fixed up, or else he'd be here talking to you on the podium, you know?
Yeah, we did wonder what happened to Chris Purnell, and we were hoping you'd be able to shed some light on that, but seems maybe not, because it was a very strange incident. We can tell you that his engine blew before he even started braking for turn 1. It was in a straight line while still accelerating, so odd one there. was your setup tuned to a point where it was maybe overheating or anything like that, or is it just an unexplainable thing?
He had a little bit of contact early in the race, so I know that. So maybe it caused that. But when I saw him smoking, I thought, oh no, I'm gonna have to look after my stuff here because same thing might happen to me because we're running the same setup. So yeah, it was a little bit concerning.
Well, congratulations, mate. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to, sponsors and drivers and friends and family and whoever you want? And floor's yours.
Jeez. Yeah, just all the boys at Illusion Motorsport that ran the major series this year. Chris, Mick, myself, and Steve, who unfortunately couldn't make it this race. And yeah, shout Illusion Motorsport, go Illusion Motorsport. That's about it, really. And yourselves as well for doing the broadcast and the Mike and John and all the other admin at Pacific Majors for putting on this series. It's awesome. Awesome fun.
Congratulations, mate, and it was a pleasure talking to you. It will be fun to see you next year. And that was Mirko Dornak. I think I accidentally cut him off there and moved now the channel, but Jay, and take your pick. We've now got our first place, our second place, and our pro champion down there in the interview channel. Who do you want to talk to?
Yeah, I'll talk to Chris Owen. Congratulations on P2 tonight. We thought after lap 1 that you might have had something for Scott Newton, but it just looked like he was too quick. But we also saw that you dropped a little bit of time on the timing sheets after your second pit stop. Talk us through what happened there, because we did miss something.
Yeah, just nothing really. Scott he's just that quick, to be honest. I got no excuses. He's just too quick.
Not wrong about that. He was phenomenal tonight, but yeah, best of the rest is probably a great feeling considering how quick Scott Newton was. Talk us through that race and what the strategy was and whether you had to tweak it and how the car evolved over the race as well.
Well, yeah, I really set up the car. I focused purely on a heavy car, so as soon as the car got lighter, the balance was completely off. There was just too much turning. So when it was lighter, it was just really hard to drive. So there was that, but other than that, Scott just being quick. But it was a two-stopper, definitely. I think some people were trying one. That just, didn't seem like the way to go. But overall, just had to try and keep my head down. Halfway through the race, Scott was like 15 seconds in front, and I was like, yeah, no, that's it. He's got it. I've got to hope that he spins or something because he's just pulling away. And yeah, that was pretty much it. Overall, really good race. Really good fun. It's been a while being in these cars, so yeah, it's good overall.
And we haven't seen you for a full championship campaign. We've seen you for a couple of races here and there. Will you look to make the full run, the major series in 2020?
Yeah, 2020, I'm really going to start putting some effort in on iRacing. I seem to just, rock up for a race here and there and just kind of, that's about it. So I'm hoping 2020 can really start to push it a bit with iRacing and the major series, definitely.
Well, congratulations on a great result tonight. P2, the best of the rest, and a fantastic drive. Actually, the only other driver to lead a lap as well, which is also pretty cool too. So congratulations on a great result. Who would you like to thank?
Just obviously you guys, majors, anybody watching. Obviously Scott as well for just giving me a good run. And yeah, that's about it.
Congratulations there, Chris Owen. We go lastly to Scott Newton. Ryan, you're standing by.
All right, Scott Newton. Well, I don't know what to say about your race other than just wow, because you've lapped absolutely everyone except for one man, Chris Owen, and you looked unbeatable today. Pretty much the only driver not to make a mistake. Congratulations.
Cheers for that, Ryan. Certainly a tough race out there, given the weather conditions out there with 50+ degree track temp, especially in the early part of the first stint. I would say that it certainly made a fun and interesting battle on the broadcast before I was able to gap Chris for pretty much the majority of the race after that.
Well, that start was very interesting because we thought we were going to see a race-long battle. I even said we might see a race-long battle here between Owen and Newton, and you were certainly coming under a lot of pressure. What changed sort of between lap 4 or lap 5 and then the next few laps where you just started opening up that gap and pulling away?
It was more so backing up the braking point for turn 1. with the entry dropping away on the left-hand side, it makes it look quite a lot trickier, especially with the neutral to rearward, or more rearward bias than I would typically run, and just pinching a front right, front left would send the back around, and it would automatically lose me 3/10 on my lap straight away. And with Chris pretty much behind me that whole time, it made me have to look after the tires a little bit more, especially in that 50+ degree track temp for sure, to be able to then pull away.
Well, it seems like it did a pretty good job of it. We haven't really seen you, correct me if I'm wrong, it did too much of the races this year. In terms of next year, well, you're the four-man heading into the off-season. Are we going to see you do a full tilt next year and maybe challenge for the title?
Yeah. To be honest, this was the first race for me of 2019 in the major series, so other commitments kind of put hold to me competing in other races this season. But I would certainly love to come back next year and have a crack at the international split title. Certainly, congratulations due for Cameron Dance in taking up the title with one round to go. But if I'm able to make all of the rounds next year, I'll certainly look forward to having a huge battle for next year's title.
Well, we'll certainly look forward to that prospect. And before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to, sponsors and the like?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd just like to give a huge shout out to the major series putting on the awesome championship that they have across the international, European, and Americas region. It's been cracking to watch over the course of the year, and I certainly look forward to participating in it next year. To you guys for the broadcast, as always, and to the team sponsors at Apex Racing Team, SDK Gaming, and St. Peter's PC Systems.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Scott. Congratulations once again on a dominating victory. We look forward to seeing you next time out. But of that, Jay, should just about do us for today's broadcast. I could see Cameron Dance down there. He wants to have an interview, but we spoke to him last time.
No, we talked to him last time.
We
talked to him enough this season.
We've talked to him enough, and we're about running out of time. So what we'll do is I'll grab the last closing thoughts from you before we wrap this one up.
What a way to finish the season. A really tough combination, a good turnout, and I don't think there's anything that race control will need to review from this race. So it's not a single incident that we'll need to see anything reviewed because everyone drove a fantastic race. The only things that we saw were drivers making honest mistakes, which is what we want to see. We don't want to see drivers making contact with other cars. I don't know if there was any contact made at all. So that was phenomenal. So, yeah, what a race. And bring on 2020 for the majors. If you are wanting to know the schedule for the major series, do check out the broadcast on GSRC on Monday around lunchtime if you're in the Australia-New Zealand region, Sunday night in the Americas, and sometime around really late Sunday night and very early Monday morning if you're in the European time zones. And you will get the majors details for the 2020 season, the schedule, and the start date, which is going to come around really quick. It always does when you start a new championship. It always comes around a lot quicker than you're ready for.
It certainly does. But for 2019, the international aspect of the major series is done for another year. We will return in 2020. I cannot wait to hopefully continue to call this series for you. And it will be a cracker. In terms of before that series starts back up next year, though, we've got some more series still going on. Tomorrow, V8 Scops for SimSpeed TV is back on the iRacing Esports Network. The first round after the endurance season gets back underway. And then on Monday night, we go racing with the iRacing Official Supercars series. And make sure you tune into both of those. And I think we've got some racing almost all week as well for SimSpeed TV on the iRacing Esports Network. If you haven't already, drop a like, subscribe, and let us know what you thought. But from myself, Ryan Jones, and from Jay Kennedy alongside me, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for sticking with us, and we will see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh, no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God.
God, what?